My name is Natalie Hastings. I'm lead organizer for Honesty for Ohio Education, and I am in Forest Hills School District, which is down in eastern Cincinnati. And a positive impact about public schools for me is just my kids had a couple rough years at a private school, and we went back to public schools, and it was life-changing for them with feeling belonging and acceptance at that point in their school career. So anyway, all right, it's 7:04. Shall we get started?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
So, do we want to do a quick round of introductions for the rest of
Yeah,
the?
it's probably a good idea, Anna.
Um, I'm Anna Baltus. I'm from the Beaver Creek City School District. I've been working with Honesty for 2 years and specifically the Voucher Working Group for 1 year plus now. Um, I have a fourth grader in public school. I'm a proud public school graduate myself.
I'm Heather Spies, and I'm up in Toledo, Ohio, in the Washington local school district. I've been with Honesty now for about a year and a half. I started with the voucher program or group, not the program, the group, and I'm a parent, and I'm really passionate about what's happening with our public education.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danette Moore. I'm actually in Southwestern Ohio at Middletown City Schools. I had three sons who graduated from public schools, and now I have a grandson in fifth grade. And like Heather and Anna, I've been working with this group for almost a year and a half now, and am also very passionate that we make sure that public school is very successful for all of our students. Okay. All right. So we're going to start off that just to kind of give you a background of what our working group mission statement is as part of the Voucher Accountability Project. The Honesty Teens Voucher Work Group is made up of grassroots leaders from all around the state. As you can see, where myself and Heather and Anna are, our goals are one, to hold private voucher schools accountable to the same transparency and performance standards as public schools, and to educate the public about the impacts of unaccountable private school vouchers using all of the available data to paint that bigger picture. Okay, next slide.
Hey, and I'm going to share a little bit about Honesty for Ohio Education. Honesty ensures that every student in Ohio has the freedom to learn and grow in a welcoming, supportive environment. Or we're working to ensure, we're still working on making sure every student has that. We're a nonpartisan statewide coalition that champions honest education, affirmation of identities, cultures, and lived experiences, and the rights and safety of all students, families, and educators. You can see here a little bit more about our partners. We partner with 80 organizations, what they call grass tops, groups working throughout the state at a local level, regional, or statewide level. Everything from faith groups to policy groups, civil rights groups, and we offer lots of opportunities to collaborate. And we have a legislation tracker that we offer that keeps you up to date on policy and how it affects education in our state, as well as several other updates that you can see there. And we also organize groups at the local level through our Teams network, a school board alliance, student action teams, and then we have working groups on various issues. Tonight, of course, we're featuring our voucher working group and the awesome volunteers who have been leading this for a year and a half. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to them and let in a few other folks.
Real quick before we get started, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the topics we're going to touch on tonight. First, starting with the Voucher Accountability Project. Our brand new launch. We're super excited about this. Then we're going to go into new legislation, Senate Bill 443. Then we're going to touch on some basics about vouchers in Ohio and school funding. Then we're going to talk about where we are now in the timeline of the work we're doing and how you can get involved either with us or in your community or at the state level. And then we're going to open it up to Q&A and next steps.
All right, so the Voucher Accountability Project was actually just launched this past week. So it's very exciting. And what it is a statewide public awareness campaign focused on one simple but urgent truth. Public dollars deserve public accountability. For years, our Ohio taxpayers have been told that the ever-expanding unconstitutional private school vouchers would improve educational opportunities for families. Instead, what it's done is put billions of taxpayer dollars taking those from public schools and redirecting them largely to unaccountable private institutions. And in Ohio, we have over 600 school districts that serve 90% of our Ohio students. Public schools are held to rigorous standards for transparency, testing, governance, and financial accountability. Most voucher receiving private schools operate without that same public oversight, even while they are receiving taxpayer money.
So for the Voucher Accountability Project, it exists to pull back the curtain on what these policies are really doing to our neighborhoods, our schools, and our taxpayers. And we've been working through social media, community engagement, and public education efforts, hoping that VAP will provide all Ohioans with accessible information, the resources and tools to better understand the impact of vouchers and to advocate for policies that keep public funds in public schools.
Now, I want to talk about some legislation that recently was introduced in the Senate. It is Senate Bill 443, the Take the Dough, We Gotta Know Act, which I love that title. It was introduced on May 20th. This is a bipartisan proposal sponsored by Senator Bill Blessing and Kent Smith that would increase transparency and accountability requirements for private schools receiving taxpayer-funded voucher dollars through Ohio's EdChoice and the pilot project, so the Cleveland program. And this bill is also co-sponsored by Senator Nick Antonio, Bill DeMora, and Casey Weinstein. And this legislation, I just want to say, was a huge collaborative effort, a long time in the making from a lot of grassroots and statewide advocacy groups all working together to get this put together. So this is pretty important and exciting.
Yep. So what this bill would do would require participating private schools to provide greater financial transparency regarding the public funds they receive through voucher programs, would require they submit audits and financial records showing how those taxpayer dollars are spent. They would have to report disciplinary and school climate data in a more consistent manner, meet additional accountability and reporting requirements similar to those already imposed on public schools receiving public funds, and it would improve student record transfers, including disciplinary records when students move between schools.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to start going through some of the basics of the various scholarships that Ohio offers. So Ohio offers 5 publicly funded scholarship and voucher programs to help families cover private school tuition. These programs range from traditional performance-based scholarships to near universal income-based options and specialized awards for students with disabilities. The first one is the John Peterson Special Needs Scholarship. This is for students that are kindergarten through high school. This program provides scholarships specifically for students with disabilities who have an individualized education plan that their home district develops, and the scholarship allows students to choose alternative private special education programs or to pay for approved services like various therapies such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech and language therapy at with private providers or hospitals. The exact scholarship amount varies depending on the specific needs identified in that student's particular IEP. The second was the Autism Scholarship Program. This specialized voucher is designed for children with autism spectrum disorder. It does allow parents to use state funding to pay for educational and specialized services from state approved private providers or to enroll a child in an approved special education private school. Okay, so the other three vouchers are the categories where the Voucher Accountability Project, we are focusing the majority of our work. The first one is the Traditional Ed Choice Scholarship. This program is traditionally assigned to students based on the performance of their assigned public school building. It provides scholarship to students who live in the attendance zone of a designated underperforming public school. Like the expansion program, this is worth up to $6,166 for students in grade kindergarten through eighth, and up to $8,408 for students in grades 9 through 12. The Cleveland Scholarship Program was designed specifically for residents of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and this is the oldest voucher program in Ohio. It provides tuition aid for students in grades K through 12 to attend participating private schools. Scholarship amounts are identical to the Ed Choice program. And then the last one, and the most important, is the Ed Choice Expansion Program. This is a near universal income-based voucher available to all kindergarten through 12th grade students in Ohio. Families with household incomes at or below 450% of the federal poverty level can receive the maximum scholarship amount, which is $6,166 for grades K through 8 and $8,408 for grades 9 through 12. Families earning above that threshold still can receive a scaled prorated scholarship amount. Okay.
So, looking more at the Ed Choice Expansion Voucher, which again, this particular program has been the one that we have been focusing almost all of our efforts on this past year, because it is the one that is sort of the most problematic. It's an Ohio state-funded voucher that allows eligible students to use public tax dollars to pay for tuition at participating private schools, including religious schools. So what problems does this create? So while our public schools are being asked to do more with less, while state leaders continue to prioritize subsidies for private education, often benefiting families who can already afford private tuition. Private schools getting vouchers are also not held to the same standards as public schools. There's limited visibility into student outcomes, safety practices, and how public dollars are spent. Oftentimes, tuition is not transparent across the board for different private schools. There's no real rule for that. Families also lack reliable, comparable information when choosing schools for their children. So, if we're going to say this is about choice, um, as it stands, it's not an apples to apples informed choice, just based on the facts available. And overall, vouchers are sending billions of dollars to 10% of Ohio students. During the 2025-26 school year, over 105,000 students in Ohio utilize the Ed Choice Expansion Voucher. That's just the Ed Choice Expansion Voucher alone, costing the state an estimated $521 million. And then we've already covered Ohio's 5 voucher programs, and then the main 3 that we are focusing our work on. The traditional Ed Choice expansion, and the Cleveland vouchers account for $1.8 billion of the $2.4 billion total allocated for voucher programs in the upcoming biennial budget. And once again, families can receive up to $8,408 maximum for the Ed Choice expansion voucher. And there is no income cap for eligibility.
So now we're going to look at the bigger picture of school funding in Ohio. Last summer, the Ohio General Assembly decided not to implement the third phase of the Fair School Funding Plan. Based on fiscal year 2025 funding levels, Ohio's budget increased state funding for K through 12 public education by $281.9 million over the biennium, while the Fair School Funding Plan would have provided an additional $3 billion. More than 60%, or 63 point, more accurately 63.4% of the districts that will see a funding increase have very low or low student poverty levels. At the same time, this budget cuts funding for very high poverty districts by $34.6 million over the biennium, leaving a $570 million funding gap. Because legislators opted to dismantle the Fair School Funding Plan, which was based on real and current costs of educating all students, accounting for districts' unique needs, districts that rely on state support the most will see funding cuts, while wealthy districts will see increases in state support. This also decreases the state share of public school funding again. Ohio state share reached its highest point at about 47% in 1999. The state share is now about 35% in 26 and will fall further to 32.2% in 27. Because federal funding is about 15%, the gap has to be made up by local communities, forcing schools to go back to the ballot again and again. And we're seeing what people think about their property taxes, constantly being asked to pay more and more, and then income tax, but they have no choice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the questions that we hear is, why shouldn't funds follow the student? So Ohio has a constitutional obligation to maintain a single system of public schools available to all children. Public school districts are accountable to the communities they serve, such as local residents elect school board members, they attend public meetings, review public budgets, and help shape the future of their schools. Public schools do attract families, they support local businesses, employ community members, and help sustain poverty values. There are checks and balances on schools. It's a mutually beneficial model that serves everyone. Public schools have fixed costs that don't disappear when a student leaves, like utilities, transportation, maintaining facilities, which majority of the time they are also used by the public, paying teachers, funding special education services, running libraries, cafeterias, athletics, art departments, and on and on. If one student leaves a classroom at 25, the district can't eliminate 1/25th of a teacher, yet funding is often reduced immediately. This can create a situation where districts are expected to educate nearly the same number of students with significantly less revenue. Public schools are responsible for serving every child, and it's definitely a privilege to do so. Tax dollars support a public institution, not just an individual service, which is why we don't typically apply a money follows the user principle to other public goods, such as libraries, police, and fire department.
So here are some key data points. We have in Ohio 611 public school districts serving 90% of Ohio students. And in this biennial budget, which covers June 2025 through June 2027, approximately $22.8 billion is allocated to K through 12 education. Now that includes traditional school districts, STEM schools, JVSD. Now, $2.4 billion out of that is allocated to vouchers to all 5 of the voucher programs. The overall allocation for education over the term of this budget increases by 1.6%, while voucher funding specifically increases by 17%. And all of this money for vouchers education, it comes from one line item in the budget. And at the same time, nearly 90% of Ed Choice and Ed Choice expansion voucher recipients are not low-income students, despite vouchers originally being justified as a program for under-resourced families. Families earning up to 450% of the federal poverty level receive the full voucher amount, and higher income families can still receive partial vouchers. For example, a family of 4 earning nearly $150,000 can qualify for the maximum voucher under current rules. In the 2025-26 school year, there were 105,596 students who used specifically the EdChoice expansion vouchers, and 93,831 of them were not low-income qualified. And this expansion also didn't move kids into private school. In the very first year these vouchers opened to everyone, the 2023-24 school year, the state handed out 68,593 new vouchers, while private school enrollment statewide grew by only 3,349 students. That means that 65,244 new vouchers went to students already attending and affording the tuition to private schools.
Trying to unmute myself. Okay, so state funding in Ohio, these are 24 to 25 numbers because that's what we have. We'll update as we the new ones come out. But in 24 to 25 school year, 1,652,539 students were enrolled in Ohio public schools, and the average state share of base cost per student was $3,741. That same year, 100,941 students who lived in Ohio were using private school vouchers, and then they could receive up to $8,408 from the state. And the average statewide voucher amount was $4,883, which was more than what the public school students were, getting for the same, year. Also shows that 88% of Ohio families using vouchers did not qualify as low income, and the Ohio school vouchers totaled $492,878,458.
And I guess this is me. Sorry. We made a last minute switch up. I want to get into a couple school district level fact sheets. This one is for Trimble local schools in Athens County. Every student there is economically disadvantaged 100%. And the district's property tax base is so small that the state covers 94% of their funding. Yet this past November, the people of Trimble had to tax themselves a 1% income tax just to keep their schools running. Not a single student there uses a voucher. They would have nowhere to use one, even if they wanted to, because there are no private schools in Athens County that accept vouchers. For many other rural communities like Trimble, the local public school is the only school available. Ohio students using vouchers are eligible for 700 plus more in state spending per student than Trimble local students. And like I said, there's no private K through 12 schools taking vouchers in Athens County, but Trimble local families' tax dollars are still paying for vouchers going elsewhere in Ohio. Slide. And then the next district I want to talk about is my home district, Beaver Creek City. We are a suburban district which the state labels affluent. So the district receives the very minimal in state support per pupil. We get $812 per pupil. We also have no income tax, so our schools rely almost entirely on local property taxes. 2 in 5 of our students are economically disadvantaged. Our schools are over capacity, and some kids are learning in trailers. So starting in November of November of 2023, and then again in May of 2024, our school district asked and put on the ballot a bond issue to help build the new facilities that we would need to address our capacity issues, and it failed twice on the ballot. But the simple fact is that for many families, this additional property tax burden is just not affordable. So in this same affluent community that the state has determined us to be, 789 students received the Ed Choice expansion vouchers, and more than 90% of them are not low-income qualified.
All right, so there are two paths for advocacy. One is the VHO lawsuit, which is Vouchers Hurt Ohio. It's a growing coalition of public school districts that have come together to sue the state over the unconstitutional and harmful Ed Choice private school voucher program. And they've already, a court has already said that the vouchers are unconstitutional, but of course, this is going to be an ongoing thing. So what you can do is you can find your fact sheet and share that at school board meetings with your school boards. Encourage them to join the lawsuit if they aren't already involved in it. And then, of course, legislation, which we talked about earlier, working with coalition partners, grassroots organizations, and policy experts and legislators. SB 443 was introduced in May, and we're working on a plan to talk. You can work on a plan to talk to your local legislators and school boards about supporting Senate Bill 443 as well. And if you want to check to see if your school district is part of the Vouchers Hurt Ohio lawsuit, you can go to that vouchershurtohio.com/districts there. This, though, is any school that has ever joined on. So you do have to check with your school district to find out if they are still supporting the lawsuit.
Okay, so other ways that we would love to see anyone get involved is pretty much hear what Heather said. Download your local fact sheet and share it. If you've noticed that we have a lot of links that have been dropping in the chat. Advocate to your local school district, as Heather said, about the Vouchers Hurt Ohio lawsuit, and see if your district is part of that, and legislators, and advocate at every level to properly fund public education. And go mining for stories. Do you know somebody else with a story to tell? Perhaps someone whose life has been positively impacted by public school or with a private school or voucher experience that didn't quite meet their expectations. And lastly, our first choice is come join our voucher work group.
And if you are interested in getting more involved with the voucher campaign and working with us, you can use that QR code, and I'm sure we'll be dropping the link there as well in the chat that you can fill out a form, and then one of us would get back to you and do kind of a one-on-one with you and get you involved. You can also learn more at the vouchersaren'tfree.org website that was just launched, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Voucher Accountability Now. There's also a voucher toolkit that you can find on Honesty for Ohio Ed's website. And then